Allen.
Hello, hello. I think you may have been introducing me with the mic on mute.
No, it's mine set off. I mean, I don't know. The technology, it gets, I'm thinking like, hey, I looked at the mic. So.
Not a problem. Not a
Okay.
problem. It is Thursday, and we are always excited to be here. I am Georgia Allen with GA for Justice. And as always, we want to bring you greetings to our listening audience. And we also want to thank Henderson Vaughn, our host, the Dream Maker,
There you go.
Captain 85, and the one who allows us to be able to speak to the audience week after week. And as always, my conversation is a weekly conversation for information. We have a weekly conversation for correction and a weekly conversation for transformation. And that's important because even we make mistakes sometimes. I had to correct myself a couple of weeks ago because I had given out the incorrect information. But guess what? The type of people that we are, we don't have a problem coming back and saying we made an error and correct the error. Okay. So with that being said, we have an exciting program coming to you today. And we are going to be talking about that 10-1 district system and how it is important for our future. We have a very special guest today. This is someone who has been working in the community for many, many decades. It is Mr. Frederick C. Foard. And I'm going to actually read his whole bio. Even though it's a short bio, I'm going to read the whole thing because I think it's important to understand the wealth of knowledge and the work that he has been doing in our communities for a number of years. Frederick C. Foard, and that's spelled Foard. He's an MBA and is a semi-retired business consultant specializing in healthcare. And if there's any group of people that need comprehensive health care, that is our community. He has marketing communications, business strategy, and business development. He and his wife, Georgianne, are residents of the College Park section of Virginia Beach. Having relocated from at the end of 2013, his last full-time employment was as an operational head of a licensed assisted living facility in Norfolk, Virginia. Prior to that, he was a senior vice president for strategic planning for a major consulting company, serving the pharmaceutical industry. And before that, he rose through the ranks to become the cardiovascular marketing vice president at the predecessor company of the pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline. In addition to this 40 plus years in business management, Fred has twice owned and operated consulting firms specializing in multicultural healthcare, marketing, medical publishing, consumer and professional healthcare education, and professional healthcare strategic initiatives. Besides this work experience, Fred has a lifelong community service background, including voter registration and education. If you know anything about the NAACP, we are always interested in both voter registration, education, but we're also interested in the participation of these registered voters. He's also worked in restoration of voting rights for ex-convicts, youth mentoring, advocacy for action against health disparities, disease prevention and management education, political awareness education. He is a dedicated member and elder in his church and an active member of 2 Black fraternal organizations. Fred's involvement with Virginia Beach political issues has been through his involvement with local, state, and national candidate assessment and recommendations conducted annually by the Virginia Beach African American Political Action Council, or better known as the Virginia Beach APAC. Fred holds a bachelor's degree from Lincoln University of Pennsylvania and HBCU and a master's degree in business and finance from Capital University, located in Columbus, Ohio. He holds a life membership in the National Black MBA Association, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or also known as the NAACP. He's a national member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated and is a non clinical life member of the Association of Black Cardiologists Incorporated. So today we're going to be bringing to you Fred, and we are going to be discussing today 10-1 voting system. It's our future. And I'm going to kind of get us started about the 10-1 voting system here in the city of Virginia Beach, because with the 10-1 voting system, it has opened up some new opportunities for persons who are interested in serving our community, but may not have had the type of money as some of these other people. But because we now have a 10-1 system, we don't have to run in an entire city. We get to run in a smaller population group, which is called districts. And so over a year ago, the judge ruled in the favor of the plaintiffs when they filed a lawsuit against the city of Virginia Beach for its voting rights violations. And the judge ruled in the favor of the plaintiffs and agreed that the city of Virginia Beach were voting illegally, had an illegal voting system, which prevented various communities from being able to elect candidates of their choice. And so the reason why we're inviting Fred on today is the NAACP on Tuesday evening held a town hall meeting here in Virginia Beach to educate the community with regards to the history of this illegal system, with regards to the benefits of the system, and with regards to taking action to ensure that they protect and keep a system that has been advantageous for the persons who have been marginalized, persons who have been left out, persons who have been prevented from being fully engaged in our election system. With that being said, we want people to know that there's a reason why you sometimes have to sue your city. There's a reason why that you have to sometimes call elected officials into account. There's a reason why you have to go before school board, city council, and other entities to push back against the things that don't work in the interest of the masses. And in this case, it was the voting system. The voting system in Virginia Beach was what they called a hybrid system. And the hybrid system forced 7 members of city council to live in a particular district, but they then had to run in the whole entire city. Well, the city of Virginia Beach is a city of over 457,000 people. That's almost 500,000 people. The city of Virginia Beach is a city that is over 309 square miles. Okay. But in land, it is 249 square miles approximately. That means if you're running for office in a citywide system, you're going to have to cover 249 miles. Now, Google says you can drive that in 4 hours. That means you can't stop for a bathroom break. You can't stop to get out and shake someone's hand. You can't stop to greet a voter or anything. If you're going to go the whole city, the whole 249 miles. Well, that changes drastically if it becomes a district system. Drastically once it becomes a district system. So what you want to have is a system whereby people are able to meet with their constituents. The constituents know them and they know their constituents. With that being said, if you're in a district like we have now, the 10-1 district system, which allows us to have 10 individual member districts and one mayor. What happens is, instead of trying to collect votes from over 400,000 people, you now only have to meet with a population of about 36,000 people in a voting district. There's about 46 to 48,000 people who live in the district, but they're not all a voting age population. They're also not all registered. So what this also means is that when you're in a system where the district becomes smaller, it allows you to be able to better connect with the members of the community. You're better able to know personally the concerns because you live there. And the reason why that is so important is because when we had the previous system where it was hybrid and you had 7 district members, 3 at-large members, where they could live anywhere in the city that they wanted to, the district members had to live in the district, and then you have your mayor at large. What that meant is there were people who lived within a mile of each other, but because one was at large and one was in a district, they basically lived in the same district. And so that area had a huge representation, while another area did not have that type of representation because they may have had a district rep, supposedly, but because everybody was running at large, of course, that also allowed the district representatives to say, well, everybody got a chance to vote for me. So you didn't have the same type of accountability. You didn't have the ability to truly hold someone accountable when you were in a situation where someone would just say, well, I'll just get enough votes from this other area over here, and I don't really have to pay attention to my district right here. And so this is why it was so important for the city of Virginia Beach, for the members of Virginia Beach, for the residents of Virginia Beach, for the constituents of Virginia Beach, to get a fair, full representation. And so we want to make sure that, one, that people understand why having district voting is advantageous for the community itself, for the residents themselves, for the constituents themselves. It is critically important that we do that, because if we don't, then the same group of people will make all the decisions on behalf of the masses over and over again. You'll see a tremendous amount of money put in elections when people are running in the entire city. You'll see groups forming coalitions to make sure that their people are the only ones that get on city council. And that's what has happened in the city of Virginia Beach for decades. And so we want to make sure that you learn a little bit more about the 10-1 member district system, because we want to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. Now, when we changed the district system just in one election cycle, we were able to elect a more diverse city council. Now, some people will say, oh, so you were able to elect a lot of Black people, or you were able to elect a lot of Asians or Latino people. No, we were able to elect additional Black people on council, but we were also able to elect a younger city council. They were younger in various races, not just one race, but in other races as well. And so this helps a lot when you are a city of our age. That means a lot of people are coming of age. That means a lot of people are college age persons who will be here in the year 2040, 2050, 2060. And the folks that are on city council, some of them are quite elderly, and some of them who were elderly are no longer on the council. And that allowed you to be able to have people coming into office who have a perspective of the future that maybe some of the elderly people do not have. Now, does that mean we want to get rid of all of the elderly people? No, because we want some of that wisdom to be there for a little while longer to kind of guide and direct and help understand who's there. And then with that, we need our younger people because they have interests and information that we may not be aware of. With that being said, we do have our guest. He has just arrived, Mr. Frederick Foard, and we are excited to have him here with us today.
Good. Hi, how are you?
Good. I don't know if you got a chance to hear my introduction of you, but I did introduce you.
No, but I see something scrolling at the bottom.
Yes. And I tell you, I was reading your bio with regards to all the background that you have in the medical field, and that's wonderful, because if anybody needs health care, we need health care. If anybody needs prevention of many health concerns and diseases, our community needs that. And so we're glad to have you here, Fred. And as we shared earlier, we're going to talk about that 10-1 district system. We're going to talk about the fact that 10-1 district system allows us to elect persons of our choice, which is so critically important to be able to do that. Of course, the topic for today is 10-1 voting system, and it's all about our future. So with that being said, I want you to share a little bit about this 10-1 district system that Virginia Beach communities are supporting and organizations are supporting. So talk with the audience a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, kudos to you, Georgia, and Ms. Holloway. You two were successful litigants in federal court in getting the former system we had, the citywide voting system, declared illegal. And the city appealed that, and ever since has been trying to take us backwards, I should say, to that old system. And that old system, of course, was one in which, for example, I live in College Park. And the issues that we deal with in College Park are very different from the issues dealt with, let's say, in SeaTac, or the issues in Town Center, or right around the corner from us in Centerville. So it's kind of odd and unusual to me, since I'm a transplant here from New Jersey, where we didn't have such a system. To have someone who didn't live in or experience the issues in my district supposedly representing me on city council, or school board. I was very happy to see the 10-1 system go into place, even though it was reluctant on the part of the powers that be to put it in place, but they had no choice because of Judge Raymond Jackson's ruling. The old system advantaged the people who had the money and the power and the influence, especially along the beachfront, where a large part of our city revenue comes from, to decide for the rest of us what happens and with whom and how much. This way, in the 10-1 system, each of the 10 districts has its own elected representative, and hopefully that person is responsive to the issues within our specific district, as well as issues that they have to address citywide. So I, for one, and I think a lot of people I know are happy that we have this 10-1 system, and are very aware of the efforts to take us backwards, and how important it is for all of us to be involved in that fight to prevent that from happening.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and we want to kind of keep people informed, one of the things that's taking place now is the city of Virginia Beach is having these so-called information sessions where they're going around the city and inviting the community to come out. Now, what's interesting about this is anytime the city wants a huge place to have a lot of people come, they find a building, they find a hotel, they find the convention center or wherever to bring people together. However, when they decided that they supposedly want community input, I went through the list of places where they're going to be holding these. They have places only 60 people can come. Only 70 people can come. And I think the largest place was 100 people. Now, keep in mind, we are a city of 450,000. 450,000 persons. The other thing that was interesting about that was they wanted to only hear from 1,000 people in the city of over 457,000. Now, as someone who has been out here and worked in the community, how do you feel about them saying that 1,000 people is enough to hear from with regards to something as important as how we elect our council members and school board members?
Well, I started my early career in the pharmaceutical business as a market researcher. And as such, I had to understand and utilize statistics. And one of the key principles when you are trying to assess what people's opinions are is that you have to have an adequate sample size. That is a certain percentage that is a reasonable proportion to the universe that you're trying to project your results to. Well, we don't have an adequate sample size with 1,000 people, given 450,000 residents. That's clear. I mean, any first year psychology 101 student who's had to take statistics knows that. So clearly, this is a false study, and any results from it cannot reasonably be projected to the universe of our entire population.
Exactly. And that's what I felt as well. I'm like, okay, you're saying that you want input from the residents. You're saying you want input from the constituents. But somehow you don't feel like the size of the city is important enough that you would have a larger sample of the citizenry. You're just going to find 1,000 people, many of whom you will probably call in advance and say, I need you guys to sign up. Okay, because we do have to sign up in order to even be considered going to the listening session or input session. So first, they tell us that we have to sign up. So as a citizen, I'm wondering if they have already found their 60 people for this this input session, the 60 people over here, the 70 people over there, the 100 people over here, that, because it just really sounds very shady that you would only ask that we have a population of only 60 people in some of these in some of these settings. That was kind of disturbing to me. How do you feel about a city that says that they are genuinely interested in hearing, because that's what they have been saying at city council meetings. If you've watched them, if you've come in person, I've been there in person, and they said, well, we just want them to give their opinion. It sounds a little, I mean, the district size are 30. They're doing it in every district, in all 10 districts, and then they're doing 2 extra ones. They're doing 3 that are going to be online that people can call in or what have you. But we don't know how they're going to determine the folks that they're going to receive as a sample. You know, are they going to go through it and say, okay, let's toss these out because we don't like what they say? There's nothing that's telling us that.
Well, a couple of things. One, as I understand it, our 10 districts are supposed to be fairly evenly populated. So roughly 40,000, 45,000 people in each district. If you if you were to try to approach a reasonable sampling, you would take a much larger chunk of 40,000. Matter of fact, at minimum, you take 10%, 1 out of every 10. So that would be 4,000 or 4,500, not 60 or so. But secondly, this is clearly not genuine intent. And we've seen this act before. As a matter of fact, it's going on right now. Unless I have my facts wrong, Rudy Loop, right? Yes. Some years ago, they had a referendum. And I think before that, they had a opinion polling. And both results came out saying most people said we want to keep that area environmentally clean and recreational. And they didn't like that because the developers didn't like that. So what do? They come back and they're doing another polling and another referendum with the same kinds of false design because they're going to keep doing it until they get the answer they want. And that's the same situation here. So we have to see this for what it is. It is, I think, an illegal as well as an illicit attempt to overrule what the general population has already said when they wanted to have a more representative election process. And besides all of that, in my personal opinion, it is too soon to ascertain whether the new system is satisfactory or working or not working. I mean, we're not even a half year into the new system.
Correct.
So, again, a realistic study, you would give more time for people to experience the new system before you would go back and ask them, do you like it or not? Clearly, the intent is not to get realistic and accurate information.
Absolutely. And it is at the expense of the taxpayers. I think they spent over $1.3 million on the original lawsuit. They spent money prior to the lawsuit in preparing before they got the attorneys that they wanted. They are now spending money for a consultant, with regards to the outcome of the election. And so they now want the consultant to more or less go through and get the type of responses that they prefer. So over again, this is the taxpayers' money. They did it at Ruby Inlet, didn't like the outcome, so they go back and they do another study at the taxpayers' expense. They then turn around, and if they get the same result and that they still do not like, they go back and do another study. So for the listening audience, we want you to understand that we are fighting, those of us who are out here in the community, people like Mr. Foard, who's part of APAC, which is the African American Political Action Council, who work to try to find some of the better candidates to serve us in council, on state, local, national levels. We're here today to help you understand that what the city is doing is not in your interest. It is in the interest of those who have power, who have money, and who have decided that this is what we want versus what the people want. I'm hearing some feedback. I'm not sure if somebody's mic is up too loud or huh?
Check on your mic and see, because it's coming from your mic.
Is it?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Now you know you're supposed to call me out on that. Now you're supposed to give me a signal.
I was trying to like maybe to stop, because we never had that problem before. So
right. So I didn't know. But anyway, now that we know that the city is pushing, let's talk a little bit about the benefit of the 10-1 system. You kind of share some of your thoughts. You had a chance to come to the town hall meeting and listen to information in the information session. Kind of share with us some of your thoughts regarding the benefits to the community with regards to the new district system 10-1, our future.
I'll respond to that, but if you permit me, I want to make one more point about having scientifically accurate opinion polling. One of the things you want to do when you are trying to get information from a diverse group of people is to make sure that you have statistically representative sampling within each diversity group. Women, men, different racial and ethnic groups, people who have different kinds of employment, different income levels. And so, because all of these are factors that influence how people respond to a questionnaire, for example. And you want to make sure that that you control for these kinds of variables so that they don't cause a false reading because you didn't adequately take into account the diversity. And so I don't know that that's happening either in selection of their
right.
1,000 people. But I'll leave that one alone.
Right. And they've given very minimal information with regards to this so-called listening session. The other thing is, as you talk about, looking at the demographics, what about the younger people, the 18-year-olds to 18
Absolutely.
to 25, the 25 to 30, the 30 through 35. Those things are so critical because so much has changed with technology, and now more and more people are able to work from home. More and more people are able to go into numerous different industries while they might be sitting right here in Virginia Beach. But the work that they're doing impacts another area of the whole entire country, or sometimes even further than that. And so that's critical as well.
Yeah. Well, going back to your initial question of the benefits, as you mentioned, I've been involved for a number of years with the African American Political Action Council and APAC. It's not a political PAC, and we don't. We're nonpartisan. We don't raise funds or campaign for anyone like typical PACs are. We've been existing since 2015 or earlier, to try to get a reading on candidates and their positions, especially on issues that are relevant to Black and Brown community. And we do that with a very in-depth process. We develop questionnaires that are specific to each type of office that someone is running for. We reach out to all of the candidates and we invite them to participate in responding in writing to that questionnaire. If they do so, and it's their option to refuse to do so, but most people do. If they do so, we then we review their responses, and then we set up in-person interviews. We used to do it in the flesh, but since the pandemic, we've been doing it through Zoom. But as you know, you've participated as a panelist, and I have sort of operated those interviews. And as an example, in this last election, I think it was over 24 candidates for school board and council, and neither of the congressional candidates opted in to participate. But we interviewed those for half an hour, 45 minutes, pretty in depth. I know you for sure asked some pretty questions, and we had done our homework. I mean, we knew who was supporting who, where their money was coming from, and that might influence their positions. We had our facts straight on things like police reform and on educational issues, especially underrepresentation of minority and male teachers in our schools, things like that. So we vetted those candidates, and as we always do in each election, and then we make an assessment of which ones we believe would be in the best interest of our community. And then we print up what we call a gold ballot, and we put that out at the polls. Well, the thing, I give you that as background, but for your audience, but the thing that impressed me after doing this over and over for years under the old citywide system is how much more diverse our candidates were. In their background, in their socioeconomic status, in how much money and who they were getting money from. They lived in their district. They understood the issues, could speak specifically to them, and for the first time, we have the most diverse city council I understand we've ever had, and that's because people were able to run within their district rather than have to spend the time and energy, and most importantly, the money to campaign citywide. And so this increased diversity in our representation is certainly one of the benefits. Another is that you have people representing you who live in your district. They understand your issues. They are reachable. They are more accountable to you because they know that you at the next election you can take them out if you don't like what they're doing. Whereas in the old system, again, I live in College Park. If I didn't like what a city council person was doing, I could vote against them, but all of the other districts in a citywide campaign could counteract my voting. Not so under the 10-1 system. The only people who can counteract my vote are the people within my district. So we have true representation, and it's the same kind of representation we have at the state level, we have at the federal level. where the people representing you are from your community, and are accountable and answerable to you, and theoretically, they're not being influenced by outside monies and outside interests. Does
And
that
that is
answer your
critical.
question?
That is, yes, and that is very critical. And the thing of it is, it puts the power back in the hands of the people. So, say for instance, somebody comes in and they slip through, and the people in that district notices that this guy's not listening to us. He's listening to the people that put all that money in the campaign, and so they can literally come together and say, okay, we know all of our precincts. In some instances it's like 8 precincts. I think the place that has the largest precincts amount is the rural area, because that is a larger land base, but the population is still the same, in terms of averages somewhere around 40 some thousand people per district. And so it puts the power back in the hands of the people, because they can do their own campaigning door to door and said, hey, this person we elected to office indicated that they were going to do this, this, this. They can keep a report card a lot easier on that individual who is representing their district. They can also look directly at, do we have a bunch of liquor stores in our district? Where are those liquor stores located? Do we have a bunch of payday lenders or title lenders in our district? Where are those things located? And they can now go to their city council member and say, with their list in hand, and easily put it in their face and say, look, we have some concerns about this. So you in College Park, I'm over here near the Haygood area, Aragona Haygood. I'm kind of slipped in between there, Pembroke. And if I see things that I feel are unacceptable, I can now go to my council member and say, hey, these are some of the things that I need you to address. And if that person does not address those things, of course, I can form a coalition and say, let's find us an alternative to the candidate that's sitting in office, and let's remove that candidate and put someone else there. So we have that flexibility now that we really didn't have before.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. So it gives the people more power. Again, benefits of the 10-1 district. And as you're out and about, to our listening audience, as you're out and about and you're going to these sessions, and they say, well, why would you want this type of system versus the old way of voting where you get to vote for everybody? These are some of the things that we tell people to say. Accountability. You can hold your representative more accountable, because they have to rely on your district to put them in office or take them out of office. Full representation. They are responsible for actually representing the district in which they serve. The districts are smaller, so it makes it less expensive to run. I looked online at what the candidates were raising funds to run for this particular office, and I'll use District 8. The gentleman that won spent $56,998 to win the election, while the guy who lost spent $129,785. So right around 50 grand, and you have an opportunity to win an election. In another election, the guy that won spent a tremendous amount of money. He spent $154,000. The guy that came in second place spent $87,000, and the guy that came in last spent $26,000. But there was something different about that race. The guy that came in last was an incumbent, and in the past, anytime that he ran, he would automatically win. Okay, regardless. We had another election where the young lady who won, she spent $20,881 while her opponent had $180,000 that she spent. I pulled up the VPAP okay, to take a look at what was being spent in this election. We had another person who has been in office for 30 years. She spent $110,000 to win her seat back. Now, you would think now that she's in a district, everybody in that district should know her. Wouldn't that be a reasonable thing to believe that everybody in that district should know her? So why does she have to spend $110,000 when the next amount that was spent was $40,000, the next was $34,000, and then the next was $24,000? There was 5 people in that race, and even with 5 people in the race, and she only won by what? Less than 1,000 votes. Now, how is it that you've been in office for 30 years? You have to spend $110,000 and you still can't win with 50+1 majority in your district.
Yeah, and the other point, in many of these cases, if not most, I doubt whether that money is coming out of their personal pockets. Right. So the question is, where is that money coming from? Mm-hmm. And as they say, follow the money. Mm-hmm. You'll see who has a vested interest in that candidate winning office. And that Correct. Vested interest is not necessarily your vested interest or Correct. My vested interest. And that's hard to do when you are campaigning just within your district as opposed to citywide. You know, I don't think I would ever want to be a politician, but if I were interested in running for city government, and I'm retired, so I have the time. Mm-hmm. I'm on fixed income, but I got solid income, so the $28,000 or so that you earn as a city council person, that wouldn't sustain me. So hopefully I have other income. But if I wanted to run, I don't have the resources, and I got lots of friends, but I don't think I have enough friends to raise to loan me or give me $100,000
correct
to run citywide. But I do have enough who might be willing to give me $10,000-$20,000 to run just within my district. And that's the point.
Absolutely.
You know, we, especially you mentioned young people, we want more young people to get involved in the body politic. Mm-hmm. They cannot afford to do that, especially given that so many of them are not long out of college. They have these huge college loans. So they can't come out of their pocket to run citywide, and they're not all that well known. Senator Aaron Rouse spoke last night, and as you know, he was formerly on the city council, but he made the point that if he hadn't been a well-known NFL player, that and had a sort of a name brand already, he couldn't have run citywide and been elected to city council. Most of us don't have that kind of name brand, and that keeps us out of the politics. And a lot of good people we're missing. They're participating as our political representatives because they just can't afford to spend that kind of money to be elected.
Absolutely. And that is a very good point. Yeah, he mentioned not only that he played professional football, he mentioned the college that he went to, which is a high profile college here in the Commonwealth of Virginia that many people know it for both good reasons and not so good reasons, because they had an incident in that college where there was a shooting there that created one of the biggest mass shootings back in the day. And so it was a high profile, well-known school. And when he came out to run for office, people connected with Virginia Tech. They connected with someone who was in the NFL. And so it was an easier connection to make. And again, most people don't have those type of connections that will allow them to be able to run. And so he not only went to Virginia Tech, but also Bruce Smith, who's from here, who played for the Buffalo Bills. I almost said New England Patriots. Because back in my day, I think it was the Boston Patriots or something. It wasn't New England at the time, as I almost said the Patriots instead of the Bills. But anyway, with that being said, we don't have a lot of young people that may have those type of connections, but in a smaller district, in a system that you only have to get. And I didn't tell you about the votes. The votes were only like 8,624. I think that was the highest number of votes other than Rocky's district. He got 9,855 votes, but he was an incumbent now in a smaller district environment. And he's someone that's on the sheriff department and someone that has the support of one of the families, one of those families that all their family members seem to run for office in one capacity or another. So he was in a very different situation. But
he has his own personal wealth.
Yeah, and personal wealth. The highest amount of votes was 8,624 in a voting age population of 36,000. So that means you can set your sight on running for one of these districts and say, hey, I'm going to get 10 to 12,000 votes. And chances are I'm going to win it. And 12,000 votes is what, 1/3 of the 36,000 voting age population. So
Georgia, in the old system, the citywide system, how many votes would you have had to get on average?
Oh my God! In the old system, I would estimate somewhere between 70 and 100,000. Okay,
so 10 times as much.
10 times as much. Right. Absolutely, because you had to do the whole entire city, and so now we have a reasonable a system that will allow an average Joe Blow who has a passion about his district, who has a passion about his neighborhood, his community, to say, you know what, I want to serve. And that's the key. Do you want to serve, or do you want someone to orchestrate how you vote and what you do? And so we want people who want to be servants. And with that said, do you have some closing comments? Because we're coming up close to the close of the show. And we always like our guests to give some closing comments, and always know that this is sent out on all the different social media platforms. And Henderson is going to talk about that toward the end. But definitely you want to send it out to your people in APAC and have them all listen and watch and say, hey, maybe somebody else from APAC would like to come on and share their knowledge with regards to the election process, because that's pretty much what you guys support is trying to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity, no matter what their zip code is, no matter where they live, and no matter what they look like. So
yes. Mm-hmm. I just want to close with this, given my healthcare background. And I've always been very much involved in minority healthcare and raising awareness, both with the general public as well as with healthcare professional practitioners. A lot of things they don't know, especially if they're not part of our ethnic group. Mm-hmm. So, and you have to take some different approaches. But here's the point I want to make. Healthcare and one's health status is affected by a lot of things that we tend not to think of. Okay, and a lot of that relates to stress. So you have environmental stress, right? If you live in a in a neighborhood that has a lot of crime, lot of as nice as my area is, I hear gunshots frequently. I hear cars racing up and down Military Highway. I've experienced theft in my car sitting out in front of my house, and I live in a pretty nice neighborhood. So that causes stress. We have issues about our water. We in the news what we have today about a pipe breaking and seepage, and water's all around us. So keeping our water clean and pure is important. We have people making decisions about where they put industrial sites that give off industrial waste, and oftentimes those are in our neighborhoods, not in the other neighborhoods. And one reason that is that the political powers that be make sure that it's not in my backyard.
Right.
Access, having a good business environment for small businesses such as small grocery stores, and I see a drugstore is closing, a small mom and pop, things like that. Those are all things that are affected by legislation or by actions that our political representatives take or don't take. And so I just want to put in everybody's mind that if you don't care about politics for other things, remember that it's personal when it comes to your health. And the decisions that the people you put in office make can directly and indirectly affect your health, both short term and long term, and not only your health, but the health of future generations. So, as was said last night, if you decide not to vote, you voted.
You voted.
and you get what you deserve.
Exactly.
And if you decide not to participate in this issue on 10-1 system and trying to take it back to the old citywide, then your non-participation is facilitating you getting what you used to have. So we got to get out and vote. I understand that there are public hearings.
Public hearings.
Speak on that. You're going to speak on that?
I'm going to close out with that. Okay, but Fred, I just want to thank you so much for coming out. It is critically important that we are engaged, and engagement means roll up your sleeve, get in your car, go to the locations. You can find it on Virginia Beach website, elections, public hearings, and 10-1 district system. Google it and you can find it. You can find where they're located. You can find out about both the virtual as well as in person. And we are encouraging you to understand that 10-1 voting system is all about our future. It's about our future of our children, our grandchildren, and so on and so forth. We need you to be out there. Again, my name is Georgia Allen. This is GA for Justice. We want to thank Fred Foard for being willing to come on and kind of share with us this morning. And we want you to have a great week. And I'm going to turn it over to Henderson to close us out, and have a great week.
Georgia, in addition to the hearings, a person can contact their city council person and the mayor directly, right?
Absolutely.
And express your opinion about the system.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All righty.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're on mute, Henderson.
I'll keep forgetting this over here. All right. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for watching GA for Justice, hosted by the Vice President of the NAACP in Virginia Beach, Georgia Allen, every week every Thursday at 12 to 1, and thank our guests for participating in this topic for the community. And don't forget to share this information with other people on your social media. Until next time, bye-bye.